Welcome to this week's edition of New York Now. I'm Dan Clark. It's difficult sometimes to imagine the scope of a crisis until you can put a number to it. This week, that number is 17,000. That's how many immigrants seeking asylum have been bused to New York City from other parts of the country since the spring. And that's really overwhelmed the city's shelter system. So this week, the city started setting up new shelters and camps for those immigrants starting on Randall's Island between Manhattan and Queens. New York City Mayor Eric Adams and Governor Kathy Hochul have asked the federal government to get involved, but so far no word on that from the Biden administration. In the meantime, Mayor Adams said this week more shelters are coming, and soon.
And so Staten Island and other communities, everyone is going to see asylum seekers. So all the calls that I'm getting from elected officials, all the calls that I'm hearing from people of saying, please not here, that just can't happen. This is a citywide crisis, and all of us are going to be impacted. And Staten Island is going to be impacted like the other four boroughs.
And that brings us to a new edition of On the Bill, where we tell you about a bill out of Albany that you might not hear about otherwise. This week, we're talking about S81, also called the Access to Representation Act. Most people know that if you're charged with a crime and you can't afford an attorney, you have a legal right to have one paid for by the state. Those are public defenders. But it's not the same in civil cases, including deportation. In fact, the U.S. has a totally separate legal system for immigration. There are special immigration courts where those cases are handled. But because deportation proceedings aren't considered criminal, there's no legal right to an attorney. That brings us to S81. The bill would add a new legal right to counsel in state law for immigrants facing deportation, including those who found themselves in New York City in the last few months. Many of them will inevitably wind up in immigration court, and they're 10 times more likely to win their case if they have an attorney, according to the ACLU. Senate Judiciary Chair Brad Hoylman sponsors the bill.
It's pretty fundamental. At the end of the day, when you're in a complicated, labyrinth-like legal system, it's a matter of sometimes life or death, whether you get to stay in this country, and having a lawyer can make that difference.
Of course, the bill would also cost the state money, and we don't know how much just yet. We'll see if it moves when lawmakers return to Albany in January.